Hello and welcome to this video where I encourage you to analyze your chess games. And so this game here is a local chess club game that I played recently. And when you analyze your games, I would encourage you to go over the game first before using the computer or chess.com's computer to check the game. So first you want to try and figure out what was happening in the game, where you went wrong, what mistakes you made without using the computer. Try and calculate things out in your head, then maybe play over a board and try and calculate, and then finally use the computer. And so this game here, I had the white pieces and I played against a fellow chess club member, and I started with d4 and they responded with knight to f6, and then the game continued with developing moves, and we ended up having a King's Indian defense game here after developing here, and then I castled, and here he played c5, although the computer evaluation recommended that e5 was best. And here it says c5 was a mistake, that after c5, it looks like, let's see, white would end up being +1 ahead here. So what do they recommend? d5, which is what I played. And then, I don't know, a long series of moves here. But here I played d5, grabbing space in the center, and let's see, they responded with developing a rook to e8. And it says either rook to e8 or b6. Both moves were good. So then after that, I just played bishop to d2, and so that this move says it's an inaccuracy. It was a pretty passive move, so it looks like bishop to f4 would have been better, and that's what they recommend. So yes, this move is kind of defensive and passive, and so a6 is how they responded. And it says that's good, but e6 is better, which I think they went on to play e6 a few moves later anyway. And so then I responded with a4, and I did that that way if they tried to break through here later, this would kind of prevent them from gaining any space on the queen side by using the c and a pawn to recapture here, and I could try and push forward and gain space. But it says this is an inaccuracy, that queen to c2 was better. So it would have been better to just develop my queen, and that way my rooks would be connected and I could move them wherever they need to go later in the game. And so here, my opponent retreated back to the knight back to f8, and it says this is an inaccuracy. Playing e6 first would have been better, which I see that he probably moved this back to clear the way for this bishop, so that when he played e6, if I captured, he could reinforce this area with the bishop. But I played h3 because I didn't know where his bishop might go, and I didn't want him pinning my knight or attacking, harassing my knight. And finally he plays e6. But now it is saying b6 is best. So let's see. After e6, I reposition my bishop here, figuring that if he captures, I would recapture and this file would be open, and then the rooks would fight here along the e file for control of that. And I just wanted this bishop out of the way. And also it would help prevent his knight from trying to jump down in here, possibly. So he captures, And then I recaptured. And this is funny. It says that capturing with the c pawn would have been better, which that captures towards the center. But then I was worried about the pressure that would be on this pawn here. And I wanted to open e-file to fight his rook for that with mine. All right, so he moves his knight off this back rank and tries to reposition it to d7 where it can probably jump into e5 at some point. But here it says rook to a7 was better, which I see rook to a7. He could move the b pawn up and then double his rooks up. So I see why that would have been a good move. And the game continued with rook here fighting for this open file. And then the knight jumps in. So here it says this is an inaccuracy, and it looks like now white is ahead plus 1.44 here. And rook just capturing would have been better. And so here I capture. He captures with the pawn. And then I go up here and pin his knight, but it's saying a5 was a better move. And so his knight is pinned to the queen, so he moves his queen. And now here, I went on and captured his knight, giving up my bishop pair. And it didn't like that move, which makes sense. That wasn't the best move. It would have been better to just develop my queen up here to back this bishop up. And that way he couldn't chase me away with this pawn move, as I would just capture if the queen was here guarding the bishop. And so in this position, I captured. And so now it says that's a mistake, and it dropped my advantage in half pretty much compared to what it would have been if I moved a queen to d2. But here, I guess I was just trying to trade off one of his king's defenders, and I was thinking that the bishop, if it recaptured, my knight could jump in here and fork the queen and the bishop, or if the queen captured, my knight could jump in here attacking the queen and this pawn at the same time. And so he responded with bishop captures. And it says that is a miss. Queen takes f6 is best. And so let's see. Queen takes f6. All right. So now with this bishop capture, I'm able to fork the bishop and the queen. And so here the queen moves, and it says that better would have been to just retreat back to d8. But I capture here, and this is a mistake. So there's mistakes all around in this game. Here, the computer, instead of capturing, wanted me to attack this queen. So that does gain space, but I was worried, if I move that pawn up, he could just snatch this pawn. Okay, I guess he could not do that, because then I could just capture here on f6, forking. Okay. So a5 would have been better, which would send the queen retreating back to d8 to keep an eye on this bishop. But anyway, we had, excuse me, I'm in the wrong line here. So the knight captures, and then the queen recaptures. And now, let's see. I played queen to d2, and it says that is a mistake. Once again, it wanted me to play a5 to gain space on the queen side, to kind of lock up his pawns, and prevent the queen from being able to jump over there as well, I guess. And so now, after bishop to d7, which was played next, it says this is a miss. And a5 is what it wanted to prevent me from moving to a5. So a battle of space on the queen side could have occurred, but we ignored that. He developed a piece, and then I played e4, and once again it wanted me to play a5, which I did not. So then after rook at a to b8, it says this is the best move. And so I move my queen up to e3, but it says b3 is better here. And so then the queen moves over here to protect this pawn, which I was attacking with my queen. And so now we have queen to g3. So I moved here thinking that if he attacked on f5 and my bishop would have to retreat, if this would prevent this pawn from moving here, and I would have, once my bishop moved, I would have pressure on this e-pawn with my queen and the rook. And so once again, a5 is what the computer wanted, because now it looks like the game is just even. And so b5 is played, once again giving white an advantage. f5, it says, is the best move. And so I guess with f5, once my bishop retreats, this f-pawn could push forward and attack my queen, and then my queen would have to retreat as well. So then after a capture, we have another capture, then b3, capture, although it says rook to a8 is better. And then we have a capture here, and then rook to b4. It says that is excellent, but rook to a8 would have been better, fighting for the a file. And so now I retreat back to protect this pawn. And it looks like a queen move would have been better, protecting with the queen. So that's interesting. And now we have f5, gaining space on the king side, pushing forward, possibly threatening to push forward to f4 and attack my queen. And so now my bishop retreats, and it says that's the best move. So I thought I would retreat back, keep an eye on this c-pawn to protect it, but also protect my king for any kind of attack here on the h-pawn, maybe a sacrifice with the bishop and queen, just to help reinforce my king side here, and also keep an eye on this c-pawn. And if the rooks are traded, to help prevent any back rank threats on my king. Okay, so here, rook at e to b8 is played, and it says that's a mistake, that f4 should have been played, attacking my queen. And now after this move, white has plus 2.67, so over 2.5 pawns advantage in this position. And so I captured here. Queen takes e5, and it says rook takes e5 would have been better. So that is interesting that it preferred that rook move. And so perhaps the rook move would have been better. And it shows black would have, if I would have played with the rook capture, the queen would have retreated to or moved to f6 to get out of this discovered attack on the queen. And then rook at a to e1, rook to b1, and then queen to f4 is what it recommends. Anyway, it did not play out with that. So he captured, and then I recaptured. And now we have king moving in towards the center. And although it thinks that king to f8 is better, which that would keep it off, the king off a light square, which my bishop is on. And so here we have me moving rook at a to e1, doubling up my rooks here, but it wanted d6 in this position. So that's interesting. It wanted d6, and in the game I thought about a possible pushing of that pawn, but I don't know. I didn't know if I would be able to protect that pawn once I pushed it, and I thought after exchanges it would just be a weak pawn that he would be able to pick off in the end game. And so that is what the computer says is best. But we had my rook move, and then he moved here to prevent me from forking his king and bishop. So then I trade off, and it says f4 would have been better, to just play f4. Okay, so he captures, and then I move up here, and it says this is a good move, but rook to e5 would have been better. Rook to e5. But it looks like both of these moves are about equal. So now bishop to a4 is played, and it says that is the best. So here, by moving his bishop, it moves the bishop around on the other side of these pawns, so he's not blocked in so much by his own pawns, and he can try and put pressure on this c pawn. So whenever you have a pawn chain, the weakest link is usually this the base of the pawn chain. So he's trying to put pressure on the base of this small pawn chain of two pawns here. And so I played g3, and it recommended f3 as being the best move here. And so now we have the bishop repositioning, but the computer wanted to see h5 here, which would prevent any future progress of my pawn pushing up here to h5. Okay, so I move, attacking the bishop, but really I was wanting to put another defender on this c pawn here, but it said f3 is a better move, which would kind of limit the scope of this bishop, because then the bishop would not be able to move here to e4, which is what the bishop ended up doing. And so here I play bishop to g2, trying to force this bishop to make a decision. If we trade off pieces, I was hoping my extra pawn might help. But I don't know, with one extra pawn in a rook endgame, that could be a draw. So let's see here. Rook to g2, and it's saying that d3 should be played, and then this sequence of moves. But this is crazy, and none of this happened. Yeah, so I'll just skip this whole sequence. None of this happened. So what did occur is after bishop to g2, and it's saying that I should have played rook to c3 instead, which would have kept a plus 1.3 advantage, but instead the game is almost about even again. So then bishop to d3 is played, which is best. So I retreat back to help cover this pawn and attack his bishop. And so here he moves his bishop back up. But it's saying that he should have just protected his bishop with a rook move. And so anyway, he retreats back. And once again, I go up here to attack, but it says this is a miss. It wants me to move up here. But I don't know. If I move up there and my bishop stayed here, I was worried about him pinning my bishop possibly. And then placing his bishop here and piling his bishop, and well, I guess he couldn't place it there if my rook is up there, but still I was worried about a pin on my bishop to the king and then his bishop attacking it. So maybe I was looking at ghosts that didn't exist there. So finally he decides to trade off here. So I capture, he captures, and then I move here to protect my c pawn. And so then we have a bishop move, although it was saying bishop to e4 would have been best. And then I just move my bishop up. He moves his king up, so now I have to move my pawn to keep his king out of the position, although it says king to g2 would have been better. But then I was kind of worried about him jumping down in here and trying to use his, well, I guess he couldn't do that. I was worried about his king coming down here and his bishop, but if he captured and I captured and his king captured, this passed pawn would march forward. So that's something interesting to remember in that kind of position. Okay, so now we have the king moving up to e7. And then, so both kings are trying to reposition and move across the board. Here it's saying I should have just played h5 to try and break up his pawns here. And that would have given me a plus 1.5 advantage. So, yeah, that was probably better to try and break his pawns. Or if he ignores me, I mean, I guess I could capture. And then he would just recapture. And so he retreats back, but it says h5 would have been better to stop my pawn from moving forward. So my king moves, attacking his bishop. He repositions, although it said bishop to b3 would have been better. So I attack, he moves, I move here. And so our king's trying to reposition, but now he just attacks me, and then I realize, well, now I have to either block or move back. So I block, he goes here, but now I still can't move my king or he'll capture this. So I have to go back to keep an eye on this pawn. And so his king starts repositioning. I bring my bishop up to try and get some activity, maybe go after his pawns over here. But it's saying I should have played bishop to b1 here, which is probably a waiting move to see what he would do with his bishop. Also, I could reposition here and keep an eye on this and send my king after his bishop. So that's probably what it wanted. I'll run through this variation real quick. So, yeah, it's wanting me to go after his bishop there and then push forward. Oh, and then try and come up after this weak pawn over here. And then I don't don't know. After this, I have the extra pawn, but I don't think I can get through. Although, I mean, I guess I could. Well, I guess I would be winning here probably because I could swing over here, and if he tries to stop me, this pawn could start marching and allow me to get into here maybe. Pick this off, and then I have another pass pawn. So, I think that would be the way to go for some type of advantage, would be to try and trade off the bishops, which I was going to try and do that later. Let's see here. But we were running out of time, and he was avoiding trades anyway. So, unless there was a way to force a bishop trade. All right. So after my bishop goes here, which it did not like that as much, he comes down, maybe thinking to come down and attack my bishop. So I swing over, and then he goes back in that direction. And so I go here, threatening to come up and attack the base of his pawn chain. But also I was worried about maybe trapping my bishop in here somehow. So I was worried about, if I go back, at least here I could retreat back up to e6 and be protected by this pawn. I was worried about taking this and having him jump in here to protect this, and his king covering my escape route. But anyway, that didn't occur. He pushed forward, and then I went here to attack this pawn, and he protected it. And then after bishop to e8, he just attacks the bishop, and I moved here, and we were running out of time at this point, and we agreed to a draw. So let's see, here it says the game may have continued with bishop to a4, bishop to e2, b5, king moving. Anyway, it doesn't show any progress either. So, I don't know. It looks like for white to get a winning advantage in this, he would have to figure out a way to use this passed pawn, maybe try and keep trying to trade off bishops, or try and send his bishop over here to attack this pawns on the light squares here, although he's probably getting ready to try and push forward here and break these pawns up. Anyway, I just wanted to go over this game and analyze it and stress the importance of analyzing your games. So one of the best ways to improve in chess is, of course, study tactics, do tactics problems regularly, improve your tactics. Safety when it comes to tactics and all areas of chess. Before you make a move, make sure your king, your pieces, and pawns are safe. When you're attacking, look to see if your opponent's king, pieces, or pawns are safe. But play regularly if you can. Try to play every day if it's possible. That'll help you improve. But hopefully you can analyze as many of your games as possible. So definitely, if you want to improve, try and analyze your chess games. First, just go over them yourself with a board. Try and calculate in your head what you think you could have done better. And then once you go over it and try and think it out on your own, then in the end, use a computer to see what you have missed, because the computers are so powerful now that they will find something that you missed. For all of us, even professionals use computers to find out where they could have improved. All right, if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments, especially for the upcoming 150th video for this channel. Vote by leaving a comment for who you think is the greatest chess player of all time, and whoever receives the most votes, we will put a game review featuring that player together for the 150th video. So I thank you. Please feel free to leave comments and suggestions, and have a great day.